Yo, 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 everybody. Richard here with WingSmith Drones, and I got 45 minutes to do a build. I'll be back later to finish it, but I figured I'd just go live while we're doing it because, you know, build good habits and like seeing y'all. So I'm going to do the Superfly Flip Mini. We're going through the QA process here, and basically we're doing our revised QA. This is going to have everything from the firmware and the LRS to the thread locker and motor tests, yada yada yada. So figured I'd just take you with me, see how much we can get done in 45 minutes, and I'm going to flip you around. So there we go. Welcome to the workshop. Yeehaw. And let's get all set up. All right, so welcome everybody. I know we're not going to have too many people being able to tune in, but I just wanted to kind of do this anyway, so it's a good opportunity to, you know, do it live, and I'll show you guys something kind of neat. So first off, this is what two different 3D prints look like. I got the purple ones here, and this is a 95A TPU. Pretty basic, everyone knows this stuff. Like, it's pretty flexible, but it's got some rigidity to it still, so it's hard to crush. And I'd say it's pretty much the gold standard for different drone applications. Like, it's got the right amount, but we've actually been experimenting with 90A TPU, and it's a little bit softer, but man, does that color work out great. And let me tell you, this piece in particular with these overhangs, so this is for the Flywoo 04 unit. This is an older model, and so there's the DJI version that just came out with the 159 degree field of view. This one's the 155 from Flywoo, but it's still got the housing is the same, so it's a good proxy. So what I've got on hand right now just to do this particular build. I won't be taking this guy off, but and the finish on this is brilliant. Turns out so good, and it's quite a bit softer. So, or not quite a bit, it's a little bit softer. So we're gonna see how stable it is with the posts in here, because we don't want it flexing too much and being a liability. But especially for our camera mounts, this is pretty exciting, because with the normal 95A TPU, this is basically hard mounting. So you have your carbon, you know, it's supposed to be this way. You've got your carbon frame, and there's going to be vibrations that are passing through your carbon because it's pretty rigid. And then there's your TPU, and even though you're screwing in here and there's that level of TPU between it, because the TPU is basically mounted directly to the carbon fiber and your screws are passing through it, I mean, there's some dampening, but it's definitely not as good as, say, some of the, like, what they mean by soft mounting, where they have those little grommets. You know, you see those the little black rubber grommets. You'll see them on some Flywoo builds and stuff like that. And so this is pretty good. Like, it's not bad, but this is 90, and it's significantly softer. So even though we're dealing with the same frame and it's still what would be kind of considered hard mounting, I have my suspicions that this is going to be significantly better for vibration than this is. Now, we'll see. You know, we got to do a lot of testing, and so this is mostly just like a, ooh, fancy color. But that's why I'm doing this build, is because this one, more than any of the others, has this as a solvable, let's say, feature. Whereas things like the sync mode and the quad Mula frame have much larger TPU inserts, so even though they're relatively similar, because there's so much more TPU between it and the frame, it's just going to be a lot more dampening, where this is a pretty thin piece, and so we're really trying to maximize vibration dampening. So there is a world where, if we're successful with this, we actually move to a 90A TPU mount between the carbon fiber and the camera, and then we might be able to do things like go back to the standard 04 unit, because DJI does not seem super interested in going back to their MP66 gyro. It sounds like that's just kind of out of production permanently, and so if that's the case, soft mounting is the way of the future. We'll figure that out. and 90 TPU is definitely a way that we can, let's say, get a little bit more vibration dampening. So we're just going to start. This is what organic tree supports look like, and let me tell you, these do not work super well when you have this many overhangs. They become really, really tough to remove from the print. This one had standard prints or standard supports, and there's a little bit of cleanup we got to do at the bottom here, but like I can even with my fingernail like basically pull that off. And so we're learning all the different and the best ways to do things. Most of the time we don't need any supports. This time we need a very particular one to make it work. Okay, so let's get started. First thing on the QA list, check the correct frame, stack, and motors. So we can sort out a lot of this right now. What model is this? This is the Hummingbird Pro 3.5. Order number, this is an internal. Serial number, well, this is an internal. Customer name, internal. So these are all boring. Builder, Richard. Final reviewer, that'll be Carmen. Build date, this is July 15, 2026. QA inspector is going to be me, because this is an internal build. Firmware target, I'll get that off of Betaflight later. The receiver protocol, firmware version, and the video system in this case is going to be the Flywoo 04 standard. Okay, so we're off to the races. Correct frame, stack, motors, receiver. Well, our stack is the HD0 Halo. This guy has been cleaned up a little bit, but you can see that we're going to have to still put the motors on. We've got our capacitor connected through some motor wire, so we got plenty of AWG. We got like lots and lots of extra flex there. We got some heat shrink around the ends. We could clean it up a little bit, but to be honest, this is an internal build, so I'm a little less concerned. I can always do that, but we'll see if we can save some time on that in this particular one because it's an internal build. Then we've got our battery leads going in, and this guy just pops out to the side. This is conformal coated, seems good. And then we've got our flight controller. So again, HD0 for the Halo stack. We've got our 3.5-inch frame with scattered pieces all over the place. So that's fine. The receiver, well, it's into the HD0 since that's the ELRS. The video system, talked about printed parts, got them. And accessories. Well, this is an internal build, so we're going to say we got all that, and let's do it. Components visually inspected before installation. So let's peel everything apart. Take a look. Since we're switching colors, this isn't that big of a deal. I'll just place these guys off to the side. You can see that there's a buzzer in there. Just going to pop it out because this is a 9mm buzzer, an active buzzer. You can tell because it's got a black back. If you are ever curious what's the difference between an active buzzer and a passive buzzer usually has the PCB exposed on the back, not always, but usually, and the active buzzer will usually have a black coating on the back, and then on the top you can see that it's polar. So there's a little plus symbol there. Hopefully, let's see if I can get it to show. Maybe. You can see a little plus symbol. So there are two different pins. The longer pin is the plus, and so it is polar. It doesn't matter which direction you put it in. But otherwise, it's a 9mm. This is another 9mm. And this guy will only tick at you because it needs a sound basically fed to it, where the active buzzer only needs electricity fed to it, and it'll make the noise. It'll buzz. Fun times. Alright. So here we go. I'm taking my arm pads off, and you guys will get a look at the 3.5-inch. I was talking to somebody today about this one. It's probably my favorite size to fly. It's a little annoying that it's difficult to get into the like mount screws, and one of them is a little bit loose right now, so I'm gonna have to get in there, but it's a great frame, and we're gonna go through basically putting our thread locker on there. So let's get started. Get all my stuff, get my screwdriver, and everything tends to be either a 1.5 or a 2 M screw. This guy I think uses all 2s, and then the top plate uses all 1.5s. Here's the top. Yep, those aren't 2s. So it's a combination. It uses both 2s and 1.5s. Pretty common. I've taken this guy apart enough times. I don't have all of the little washer things anymore, so such is life. Lost a couple of them. That's okay. This is just an internal build. You guys are going to get the brand new ones with the brand new washers. They're sitting in a box just behind me. Arm just slips out. You'll notice that this one actually has 2 different screws that hold it in place. So the Quad Mula only has a single screw that passes through, and then the Superfly has 2. So the Superfly is a little bit more rigid, but you know, it's dealer's choice really which one you prefer. I really like the size of the 3.5, but I honestly like the convenience of the Quad Mula. They just don't have one that holds the 04 unit in a 3.5 inch yet. That's at least you can build for sub 250 grams. I know Era does a pretty sweet frame too, and we'll probably look at including them in the future. But for the moment, we just needed to pick some favorites to get started. And so Superfly, you know, Steve out in the UK, really good dude, Betaflight contributor, knows what he's doing. This is an excellent frame with an excellent builder with excellent tuning. So all the love there. And then with Quad Mula, we've just had a lot of experience with those frames. Absolute bashers. You can send them into basically anything. Concrete walls, trees, and they'll just keep coming. And absolutely love the cage on the Quad Mula frames. They designed these, we printed them, but man, these things are not only beautiful, but can take a hit. Huge fans. So the different frames all have their different like quirks and their pluses and their minuses. But big fan of what Steve and Superfly have done in the UK with this one, and then what Quad Mula and Sean have done out in Taiwan. So great job, guys. So the reason I'm doing this is to apply the thread locker, and we can check off that spot in our manual. Let me just check here. Oh, hey, Gun Bunny. Oh, thanks for tuning in, man. Cheers. I'll just keep chatting. If you got any questions, go ahead and, you know, ask anytime. So one thing to note about the Superfly frame is that it's got this post in the middle, and this adds a lot of stability when you're flying in like really tough environments. Like you can see that the actual carbon fiber isn't very thick, but it makes up for it with this mount here because it's got basically the frame at the front. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 contact points, where normally you're only going to have 4, 6, but they're through these screws, so they're actually not as like strong. Sometimes they make up for that with thicker carbon fiber, and then your screw has a little bit less of like a lever point on it. But on this frame, they make up for it by having a center mounted post, and that adds a lot of strength and really helps for compression. So that's awesome. One of the downsides of the split design is that you have your screws at the bottom covered. I know that in theory you can find a driver that'll actually fit through these holes and let you turn these from underneath, but you know, it's not as common as you'd think. So we don't, and we do this quite a bit. But otherwise, they've got these like press nuts that are receiving everything. It's a really high quality frame, and like I said, we've been really happy, but everybody's got their little different twerks and kinks and everything. Okay, so that seems about as tight as that guy's gonna get. These guys are all good. You don't put thread locker on something that contacts nylon or plastic, because it will 100% begin eating through plastic. You don't want to do that. You only want to use it on metal on metal. So for things like these supports, it's actually great. We can definitely do it. But if we use it on these nuts in the middle, our stack is going to get pretty weak. So we don't want to do that. And so as part of the QA, we want to make sure all the standoffs and anything that has like metal on metal contact gets thread locker. So I'm just going to unscrew these guys and then post them back through. Then I'm going to take my blue thread locker, come back really quick and dab it on all of them. And like I said, this guy only has 3 posts, and then it actually has like a carbon on carbon fit for the camera cage. So obviously we don't need a thread locker that. So we'll come over here, our handy dandy thread locker, and we don't need very much. You can see it come through, just a little dab on each of these. There we go. And we're off to the races. So we can just hand tighten these guys back down. Very good. And this is how you get that, you know, handmade in Italy feeling. This is how they build airplanes, right? So when we're doing many of these, there is some advantages to having a mechanical screwdriver, but to be honest, if you want that like really high quality fit and finish, you do want to kind of go around with your fingers and just finger tighten, at least to begin with, because it's going to really help just make sure you're not missing anything. So, okay, this is an opportunity. Is any of our frame delaminated? Nope. How about this guy? Nope. He's got a little scuff, but again, this is an internal build, so I can accept a little bit of scuff. This wouldn't be stuff I'd send you guys. Okay, looks good. Good finish. Arms. Let's see. A little bit of a nick on the side, but like nothing crazy. These arms are nice because they accept both 9 and 12 millimeter mounting, so you can do things like put an 1804 motor on there, and an 1804 motor has way more torque than a 1404 motor. And if you guys are new or you're unfamiliar with what those numbers mean, an 1804 motor is the measure of the stator. So it's basically 18 millimeters diameter, 4 millimeters in height, and when you're looking for efficiency, the 18 is going to give you like the first set of the first number in the set is going to give you more than the second number. The second number is going to give you basically more punch, but for efficiency, a wider motor is going to help a little bit more, especially when you're at these like low sizes. So an 1804 is more weight efficient than like a 1507, and so we actually experimented with the 1507. It was a really good motor, but it weighed significantly more than an 1804, and basically didn't have the same like performance curve as an 1804. So that's why we picked it. But you know, world's your oyster. You can always swap the motors out for whatever you want. We've just had the most success. If you want to keep it under 250 grams with a 1404, we run a 4600 kV, which is basically the speed of the motor, and so that gives you a really nice punch, but it keeps the weight really small. And if you want to fly like a 5-inch drone and get like significantly more torque, then we can step up to an 1804, but that does take us over 250 grams. So that's, yeah, don't know how interesting any of that is, but that's what we do. So now we're gonna check that everything fits. Good. All right, we'll get one of these arms on. Okay, so this is a reversible plate. It can go either direction. It's symmetric, just don't put it on sideways sort of thing. And we just want to line up our armholes here. Because the quad Mula has a C mount, but these arms actually just meet in the middle like this and are braced against each other. So it's a little bit of a simpler, it's not any less effective, but it's a little bit of a simpler design. And I'm sure it has some kind of difference in the resonance properties or some such. I haven't gone that deep on the frame because part of this was, you know, you got to trust the science, and there's plenty of people out there like Chris Rosser that have done really great, have really great information on all of this. But for us, it was like, we're more interested in building and supporting and manufacturing, so we got to be a little bit trustworthy. Sorry guys, a little bit trustworthy of just the science that happens in the background, and these are all super intelligent and, you know, well-respected individuals in the FPV scene, so they had the numbers to back it up. All right, so I'm gonna just take my little washer here, and this is a bit of a process. There we go. All right. So we have our longs. Very good. And we have our shorts. Okay. So I think this guy is actually one of our longs. We're going to go through the middle then. All right. There's got to be a better way to do this. There we go. There we go. There we go. Excellent. We'll take our standoff. Push it through. Good. And we're not going to put it on super tight, even though we got the thread locker on there, because we want to be able to add the other ones. But I will take this opportunity to add the outer ring, because it'll just keep this arm in place and stop from wiggling, make putting in the other arm a little bit easier. I'm only putting in a very little bit of thread locker because you really don't need very much at all. Okay, handy dandy screwdriver. Oh, I've switched to a 1.5. I need that 2 again. And again, we're not going to put it in super tight. We're just going to like get it fixed in place. Very nice. Okay, on to the next arm. So now that we have our top plate in, or I should say our bottom plate, we have a really easy time now, because it's honestly getting things aligned for the first time that is really challenging. You gotta do it in like in a particular order to make it all, like, otherwise you're holding too many things at once. And it's not impossible, it's just kind of a pain. But now that we've got it started, it's really easy. And so there we go. Line it up. Push it through. Huzzah. Good. Very good. And so I can keep talking like as I go, but really I'm just repeating things like 4 or 8 times at this point. I'm just putting the arms on. Hello to everybody that's joining our little stream. I'm just doing the QA on a Hummingbird Pro here, and this is just an internal build, so nothing crazy, but we're building it with the Flywoo. This is a 04 standard. We'll be using the 155 millimeter, or I'm sorry, the 159 field of view versus the 155 that I've got here currently. But this is just a good opportunity to finish this build, get it cleared off, because we need the space. And we're having a lot of our inventory show up, so we should be starting to ship here right away. Pretty exciting. But oh boy, has inventory been a a whole thing. It is coming from everywhere. We got some stuff coming from China, like the Flywoo boards. We got HD0. We've got things coming from Toronto and Vancouver with the DJI cameras and some of the goggles. We got Taiwan, the UK for the Flip Mini and the Sync mode. So turns out customs is a whole thing, and we're working hard to make sure that everything gets where it needs to go, and we can't wait to finally get these things in your hands because we've been really excited for a long time. But it is something, you know, that we've had to just learn as we've done it. It's been a lot of fun, but certainly not as simple as just putting an order in and letting it buck. So if any of you guys have questions about shipping, I know that's maybe not the most interesting or common thing to have a question about, but honestly, Carmen has become a bit of a wizard on it. She can make things move now. We've got, you know, you got brokerage, and you got customs clearance, and you got duties and tariffs, and what are they called? Like harmonization codes and all kinds of crazy stuff. So there's a lot to know. Turns out when you start building drones, you become basically a logistics company. So she's become extremely good at navigating all the, I don't want to say the bureaucracy, but all the bureaucracy of the whole thing. And man, really appreciate her doing all that work. So yeah, if you guys ever have questions about it, or you want to order like a bunch of stuff from overseas, doesn't even have to be FPV related, you should reach out to the website, because Carmen has all kinds of really, really useful information now on who to talk to and how to get things to actually process. It's awesome. So, okay, we're just finishing here. I got 2 screws left. I don't have, like I mentioned earlier, I actually learned the hard way how to put the thread locker on, because in an earlier crash I lost these washers, and they don't do anything like really, really significant. These are all flats, so you can totally tighten them right down, but they look nice. And so on my internal build, I'm not worried about these guys missing, but that's part of the QA is, oh yeah, if you were missing those, we would definitely notice it, send you one that's all like perfect and got everything made. But this is an internal build, so I am personally fine with it just being a quick and dirty thread locker application. Get this guy screwed in. Again, if you're doing this by hand, you can totally do it with just your fingies and you know, a screwdriver. But when you're doing this a lot, it's nice to have a mechanical. And you really don't need much. So I'm just going to put, again, one little speck. It's going to go in. Good, good, good. All right, here we go. Ta-da! We've built our frame. Look at us. I know there's more to it, but this is the part where we have to start adding other things. Otherwise, this gets kind of complicated. So now we've got our 3D prints. Let's start putting our 3D prints on there. The feet guards is one of the first things we're going to put on, and this is where these trees are actually pretty useful because they peel off pretty easy. It's only when you get to like really big overhangs that these become a huge pain in the ass. And to be honest, I might even just get this pair of tweezers. So a trick you can use to remove supports on these types of materials is to twist. It might sound super obvious, but you know, when you're just getting started and you get one of these prints and it becomes a huge pain to get these things apart, you know, check basically how much support you're adding, because that'll always affect it. But also you can make your life a little easier by just having tools on hand that do the right thing, and in this case, that's twist and pull. So I got this pair of tweezers, and I've even got a larger set of tweezers here. Like being a kid again, yeah, cheers. It's awesome. Looks like an advanced Lego set. Yeah, kind of. Like, honestly, I've been doing some Lego with the kids, and it is super fun. They're a little bit young for FPV, but you know, not that far. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this. Wow, I love this color. It's really, like, just really awesome color, and yeah, it should be super easy to get on. Let's give it a shot. Okay, and this is actually pretty tough. Like, not impossible or anything, just kind of like tough when you do that. Excellent. So that's what it's gonna look like. We got to do 3 more, but that's a start. All right. And like normally, if I wasn't doing a live stream, I'd be listening to music, or you know, I'd be on a podcast, or you know, whatever. I know Protest the Hero has a new album coming out, but I decided to do a live stream because it is still a few days until that comes out. So the day the Protest the Hero album comes out, you know, I might not do a live stream. I might be using my phone for listening to that, building furiously, and I just wanted to share this moment with you. These stupid supports, eh? All right, come on. Yeah, it's only in a few days here. I'd have to check on. I've got it all on an alarm on my Spotify. I've been following Protest the Hero for like 2 decades now. Fun fact, I actually, maybe I'll post this in one of the videos, but I've actually got a collection of like guitars and amplifiers. I used to play in a band and was heavily inspired by Protest. So one time Protest came through Saskatoon and Tim was offering guitar lessons, so I got to, you know, not only did I go to the concert, but I also got a guitar lesson from him. And by guitar lesson, I mean I learned C'est La Vie and a couple of other songs. Like, this was back when, you know, whatever album that was hot, and so I got to play C'est La Vie with Tim in the back of the Odeon. They call it the Odeon Theater in Saskatoon at that time. But yeah, I got to help them load their gear in, got to help Tim and Luke like set up, and got to play some Protest the Hero songs with a band. So that's pretty sweet. Still remember that. Still got the guitar I took to that, and now I see Tim is still playing. So, you know, props to him. Huge fan, and can't wait till their next album comes out. So none of that was FPV focused, but you know, this is a live stream. We're not all business. It's super serious all the time. Sometimes we just talk about music. Sometimes it's nice to like just turn your brain off while you're pulling supports out of your 3D print. Good Lord. All right. Well, once I'm done this, come on. There we go. Gotta have the right tool for the job. All right. So get another leg on, and then I can basically start working on the camera, because the camera is such a kind of pain in the butt. The stack, you'd think, is going to be the part that is going to be the hardest, because it sits right in the middle and it's got all the wires that run to it. But actually, the camera is a big, you know, kick in the nuts, because it sits right side up when you put the mount around it. And I'll show you that here in a minute once I'm done loading all these in, because we got to put that mount on. But when it does that, the cables all come through the bottom, and if you're doing an ELRS build, then you've actually got a piece at the back, and this is not going to happen this time, but normally you'd have a piece at the back here. You got your video transmitter mounting here, and then the wire runs underneath it, so it becomes one of the first pieces you put on, because if you screw it up and you got to take it apart, it is a nightmare to go back through. It is something that you learn to do early, because if you do it right, it makes the rest of the build super, super easy. And if you get it wrong, you got to come back to it a couple of times, especially if you forget to plug in your ribbon cable. which is easy to do when you've got like a lot of different cables going left and right. All right, so here we go. Got our leg guard here, and this is also really nice. Sometimes you don't want to do this before you install your motors, but on the Flip Mini you can pretty easily access your motor screws, no problem, so we can put those on right away as well. But we want to, let's see, just check our QA components. Yeah, we did that. Okay, so we can say our components have been visually inspected. Yep. Customer options confirmed against order, including color. Well, we're happy with that. GPS, there's no GPS on this one. The battery, well, we're just doing an internal build, so I'll mark that off and say internal. Serial number is signed and recorded on the aircraft. Again, this is internal. Just as a heads up, we don't register your drones for the Canadian registration. Like, this is our registration number because this guy is over 250 and it's an internal build. It's basically like one we use for testing at WingSmith, but we don't do the registration for you. That's something that you do as a pilot because you're always free to modify it. Like, if you want to use a smaller battery and make it, you know, under 250 grams, if you want to take 3D printed parts off because they're not technically necessary to fly, they just like look nice and also like protect you when you're landing and taking off. If you're taking off from grass though, then I mean, you don't necessarily need the 3D prints and you can save yourself a little bit of weight, maybe up to like 20 grams or so. So if you want, you can modify it that way. That's not a problem. Build photos started for internal record. Well, we're doing a live stream right now, so you'll forgive me if I count that. For this internal build, for you guys, we'd have a pile of photos that we don't even have, that we just have on record for our own, and we can send them to you. So if you're like, hey, how's my build going? We can update you. We're not like some company out of China or anything like that that won't have any record of it. We'll have a personalized build for you. So, frame assembled square with no binding cracks or stressed plates. Yes, sir. All screws installed with appropriate thread locker where suitable and nothing over tightened. You got it. Motors installed in correct positions. Motor wires have adequate strain relief. Well, I'll come back to that in a second because we're actually going to do the camera first. And now we got to play with this guy. Okay, so we're down to our 1.5. And we will just take this off because we have to get at the UFL connector. Now, I've seen some people complain about UFL's connectors getting ripped off, and that's why it's super important to have strain relief on your VTX. We intentionally designed this so that this cable is like super protected. Like, it is not going anywhere. It's inside the drone. So your connectors should never unintentionally become impacted, but know that if you're like modifying it and you want to save that weight and get rid of this, a lot of the drones like the quad mulas have like, and even these, you know, the Superflies with their standard, you know, light version of an antenna holder, those are literally just like a little tiny piece of plastic. Like they hold literally just the end of the antenna. So if you go with those, then you might have strain. All right, so let's finish this guy off. There we go, got it out. And we got a buzzer. I'll save that. Good. All right. So what time is it? 6:18. We're probably gonna have to head out here soon, guys. So I'll get this guy installed, and then I might have to step away. But at least we had some fun. Got to show off some of the build here, and yeah, genuinely, it's just a really great time. So I'm gonna put this guy through. I'm actually gonna save the buzzer for later because the buzzer cables are, because we solder and we use a wire tool, we don't want to damage this guy. We actually run it through, the cables through, and then we'll, you know, cut them to the right length and then apply the buzzer. So adding this guy it's not so bad to get them apart, but oh, that's a passive, here's an active. But when we're actually installing him, we'll run the wires through the buzzer holder and then solder it together, put the heat shrink on with the heat gun, and we do all that pretty far from the TPU so it doesn't get damaged. So for now, we're just going to put in the UFL because we want to reconnect this guy. Basically start putting them back together again. Good. All right, then we got our heat sink here. Thank you, Flywoo, and we just line up the USB-C with the USB-C. Very good. And now we got our screws. So we just go in from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. Carmen had an awesome shot at developing the operations manuals today, so we're going to have some operations manuals posted right away. I think we're going to want some feedback from you guys because, to be honest, the easiest way for us to do it is to have one ops manual because there's a lot of shared components between everything, and we'll have different sections. So one section will be for the Hummingbird, one section will be for the Hummingbird Pro, one section will be for the Falcon, and it's not like each of those won't be distinct. Like they'll each have, their own weight and their own, their own targets and stuff like that. Even though Betaflight for all three is going to be the same, but then we can do things like adjust one document instead of 3 distinct ones, and have it be updated. So that's pretty nice. Okay, so here I'm just going to push this guy through. Pretty simple, and that's why we have like the flaps, so you can just push it through like that. And look at us. Wow. So we are going to get this guy set up just like so, and we want this cable to run out the front. We don't want any strain on it, or as little strain as possible. There we go. And so what a perfect fit, right? There you got your bind button on the side there. You got your cable that slots out through the bottom here. You got your USB-C, and then you've got your ribbon cable. And the ribbon cable for this guy is just over here right now. So we can plug them in, and you always want to wind them up. Looks like I had a little spare solder. It's just sitting on the cable there. But I'm going to plug them in. Yeah, let's do it now. Plug this guy in. And I'll just show you, because I got to go right away. Okay, there we go. And then, to be honest, we probably want to set up our camera as well right now. Because, like I said, Superfly has this pretty intense camera cage, which does work very well, but requires the camera to basically be set up first. It's not really an easy way to get the camera out of here, and so I'm going to swap this stuff right now, and then we're off to the races. So pull this out, and then we want all of these parts to come out. There we go. And these are 1.5 millimeters. You can see they've got the little washers to help hold everything in place and be square. Great. There we go. One of those, cool. And there's no washers for the ones on the bottom. And then we've got our new inserts. We've got our new bumpers, and we've got our pieces of carbon. Okay. So to start with, we're just going to get our camera installed, because if we do that first, then it makes everything else a little bit easier. So we just take our, this is going to be our left-hand side, and then this is going to be our right-hand side. And excuse me if I'm missing anything, or if there's anything I can do to entertain you. We've got our 04 screws here. These are just standard 04. They come with the camera. And so I'm just going to basically place this guy in the middle. I want the bumpers to protect it, but I'm not going to tighten these in super far. I just want this to be in place and snug enough that it doesn't move around. So here we go. Okay. Very good. Oh yeah, it's got a lot of, that's a pretty soft mount. It's still a hard mount technically, but it feels soft. All right, so I'll do this install and then we'll call the live stream. Seems pretty reasonable. Okay, I'm just going to position this thing far enough back that the 04 unit is very protected. It doesn't have to be all the way at the back, but it's got to be like, you know, protected. Good. All right, and then we'll do the other side. Excellent. Okay, so we want our bumpers on now. I'm just gonna do a little cut here, a little trim. So we got some nasty little stringies. Good. Excellent. Okay. Good. Like a glove. Very nice. This guy's just got one in there that needs to get loaded, so we'll twist it off. Okay, sounds good. All right, guys. I got the cue. I need to step away. So, just to show you where we're at. Sorry, I got a cough. We got our frame. We got our camera. I'm just going to put this guy over top so you can see it. And we are ready to install our camera. So I'll be back another time to finish this off. Hope you guys had fun. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you again soon.